Hello, everybody. It's Susan or Susan again, for those of you who like to know me as Susan again. And it's still me. And I'm here to talk about the changing direction of Venus, who's now direct, thank goodness, after 6 weeks of being retrograde. I think things just generally do better when Venus is direct. So that's what I've noticed anyway. We also have Mars, which is on the precipice of leaving Cancer after a very, very, very long journey through Cancer. And it's going to be entering into Leo on by the end of this week. So we'll have a look at all of those things. But before I do, I want to mention a few things because I keep forgetting. I'm very bad at my own marketing. I'm much more interested in what's coming up in the astrology. But I do realize that some of you don't even know who I am. So just to introduce myself, my name is Susan, and I do consulting astrology. This is my favorite thing. I really like to work with people one-on-one. We look into the chart to see the chart from a slightly different way to how most people read the chart, so that we can really understand how family patterns are affecting you. And that's not the patterns that you share with your family, it's what's actually in your natal chart. And so this is what I prefer to do, but I also like to show you a little bit what's going on in a general sense in your experience. And having said that, I'm also going to be doing a presentation on that notion of the how I read the chart and the finding the ancestors in our natal chart. And that will be in Copenhagen. And there's going to be a conference there from the 6th till the 9th of June. So if you're in Copenhagen or if you're nearby and you can come to Copenhagen, then come around and say, hi, Susan, and I'd love to see you and have a little coffee, a cafe with you. It's been a long time since I've been in Copenhagen. I really love that city. I'm going to be in the same conference with Rick Levine, so that's exciting for me particularly. And also, I'm hoping that we can maybe sit down with Rick and do a little chat on a video or something. That would be really fun. So we'll see what we can organize. I don't know what he's got planned aside from the conference. So yeah, I'd love to see any of you there. And if you're not going to be able to be there, then you'll see my face again and again on the videos here. And the other thing is that I'm not going to be able to do a lot of individual sessions, basically from June through, let's say, the beginning of September or middle of September. I'm really going to be focusing on finalizing and editing my book. I've had to completely rewrite my book. So some of you know I'm a Cancer rising, and all of this moving around has been in my ninth house of publishing, as Jupiter is in my 12th house, both natally and in the transit that it's currently in Gemini. And this is basically a reproduction of my natal chart. So I'm basically this last 6 months or even more has been quite the coming and going, lots of upheaval for me. And so this book project that I've been working on for 2 years has had to be completely revised. So that's what we'll be doing this summer. And what was the other thing? So yeah, there's going to be another astrology course coming up. And so those of you who want to learn how to read a chart with me, it's not a beginner's astrology course. It's an astrology course for people who do know some astrology and who want to dig deeper into reading natal charts. You're very welcome from the middle of July. I'm waiting for Uranus to move into Gemini just to see how that rolls. And then we'll start from mid-July until into September, probably the end of September. So all of that off to one side, I want to show you what's coming up now and how that's going to affect you sign by sign as well. So in a very general sense, I'm recording this on the edge of the full moon. You can see in the chart that I'm looking at right now that the moon is actually exactly squaring Mars, which it was approaching a square to Mars already during the full moon that just happened at 23 degrees of Aries to Libra. So the full moon in Libra, I did an entire video about that, and you can see that on my channel for more of those details. This is a moon where the sun and Chiron were both opposing. So a full moon is always an opposition between the moon and the sun. And here we have the sun with Chiron. So Chiron opposing the moon as well. So it's a very interesting time. Do listen to the video to hear more about that, because I want to talk today about this Mars that's been squaring this moon, where Mars is, of course, ruling the sun and Chiron still now, and it's ruling the newly entered Neptune in Aries as well. And we also have Venus, who just 41 minutes after the full moon, like real life minutes, not the arc minutes of a degree that I often talk about, but Venus just 41 minutes after the full moon actually stationed direct. So this is very interesting. This is the thing that I want to really reflect on, because now we're starting to move into a feeling of being able to accomplish something, finally, where it has been quite a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and maybe 2 steps back and 1 step forward as well. Certainly, I felt that way for a very long time. It's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 months or something, basically, of feeling like I'm not really getting much done, although I'm just busy all the time. So I hope I'm not alone in that. But here, what we have today with the Venus is also a conjunction with Saturn. Of course, we can't ignore the North Node and Mercury as well. We'll try and pack all of that in. And for me, even though it's out of sign, I still include the Neptune in the conjunction. And all of this is still very much in a trine with Mars. So a really, really busy sky throughout April, and quite dynamic. And if you have this sense of what it is you want to get going on, and you've been mulling things over, whether it be in the, let's say, relational dimension of Venus, for example, directly within a couple or business partnership, or within maybe how you earn money. Venus is also about money in general, but also particularly the possessions that you have, as well as the values, or what you consider to be of value to you, and your own sense of self-worth as well. So all of these things might be playing in at the moment, after having been weeks and weeks and weeks reconsidering certain elements of these, all of those notions, or maybe especially one of them. And with Venus now stationing on Saturn, it's quite interesting, because she's already seen Saturn here. She met up with Saturn first in January. This is an ongoing story. And here she is again, having retrograded past Saturn and now stationing direct on Saturn. We're really looking at what we do here having a long-term benefit. And I'm just going to maybe move the chart a little bit, so just so the story becomes a little bit more about Mars as well, because part of what I'm saying here with the Venus and Saturn with the North Node is also applying to the Mars energy, which starts to then energize us in a way where we feel like there's more clarity, there's more confidence, there's more that we can actually work with. So although, if we come back again to where we are now, Mars has been trining all of these planets in Pisces. That's very constructive, really helpful. This trine gives a supportive flow of energy. Mars itself has not been in great shape, because it's kind of bogged down in Cancer. It doesn't really respond to clarity. There can be a feeling of too much emotional involvement or too much confusion around direction. Thus, the feeling of doing way too much and yet not really accomplishing anything that I've had particularly. This is in my first house since January. And that Mars also is holding on to a trine to Neptune for several weeks. So it can be also disconcerting, because it can be confusing about what direction to take. But the Venus-Saturn, along with this Mars supporting all of that, and then especially as we come forward again and put Mars back into Leo, we're looking at something that has meaning, it has a value, it has purpose, and it's in integrity. Now with Mars in Leo, we're looking at something that has importance to us, that we're willing to really work towards, in a way that we know it's a kind of a situation of the rubber hitting the road. Whereas the Mars in Cancer can be a little defensive, or it can be a little bit, again, emotional, maybe responding or reacting in a way that can be emotional or taking actions based on things that we feel are emotionally important. The Mars in Leo is pretty clear-cut. It knows what it wants. It also means that by the time Mars enters into Leo, it's actually in a really interesting mutual exchange. This is a square, although it's out of sign. Technically speaking, we could call it a mutual generosity, but nonetheless, it's in a square to the Sun, which is ruling it, and Mars rules that Sun. So that's a really dynamic, auspicious energy for moving ahead on the things that you've been mulling over for quite some time, that you realize now in your heart of hearts, very Leo, I need to get this thing done. I need to, you know, pull all the stops out and get sorting through what is lesser of importance, or let's say the things that used to be of importance and no longer are. And this is the same kind of feeling with the Venus with Saturn. It's really getting serious. It's getting serious about money. It's getting serious about love, getting serious about the quality of relationships that you might want to have. Might even be around getting serious about your stuff. Venus is very highly dignified here. She's not, she's friendly with Saturn. They are supportive. There's an energy of support there. It brings a consistency that's quite welcome. But with the North Node, it brings a certain sense of something new coming on that might not be entirely predictable, or it can be also a bit of too much. We saw in the last week how the finances and trade discussions that were going on around the world have been all of the above. A little bit too much, a little bit of new, a lot of new, a lot of stability slash instability, which is the North Node and Saturn, creating some real unpredictability in terms of finances and money markets and stock markets and bond markets and so on. Interestingly, just before Venus stationed direct, as she was still retrograde, there was a big turnaround in terms of the US tariffs that were applied over the last couple of weeks, all of which have created quite a lot of chaos. But actually, because the writing was on the wall for so long, many of the countries have responded in a way that was, or at least let's say the countries that have really taken this this instability of, let's say, the United States and other NATO countries very seriously, have pulled out of their pockets what they already prepared. In the case of BRICS, for example, in the case of China, to create something more stable, let's say, for their benefit or for their region. And that we also saw. So while the whole question of tariffs and what that should be and what was the calculation, and did you just draw that out of thin air? Is it still going to hold, or are we done with that now? Are we moving on to the next? Oh, was that the heroic move? Of course, all these things are happening simultaneously. By the way, I have mentioned to you many, many times over not just months, but over years now, that you mustn't get entangled with all of these shenanigans, with what's coming and going around us, because it's a chaotic time. And if you really try and pin something down, you're going to end up getting stuck. So you just get stuck in your own emotional stress and turmoil. It won't help you. And this will be a great example of the last 2 weeks. So now we've got China having decided to go with its own currency and de-dollarize in an accelerated way, to the extent that 38% of the world's trade is now going to be done outside of the dollar, and that's going to have consequences. So we're not seeing that happening immediately, but that's a long-term consequence. The BRICS is also amping up their own cooperation and trade agreements, because there is a need for stability and predictability. And here we see with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node, whether it's in your own life or whether it's in your trade agreements, there's a need for a certain amount of reliability. We kind of need to plan ahead. And that's where the Mars in Leo is going to help us all a lot, because then it becomes, I know what I want, I know how to get this, and I do it with integrity. That's, of course, the ideal, not always what we get. And that especially because the sun itself is in its exaltation. So this is really helpful. When the sun is exalted in Aries, ruled by Mars, which is in the sun's sign, we are going to see something very interesting, very new and dynamic in the world economy and in the structure of things going on around finances and all of those things I just outlined. And of course, in our individual lives, where I'm going to point all of that out, it really does make a positive difference. It's going to be something we want to be sure we want more of, because whatever we get now is going to be more of this. So if you're in confusion and you're in a situation that's not constructive for you, it's time to get out of that situation and find clarity, because you're going to get much more of this going forward unless you start to take more independent action based on what you really want to see. This is a long-term imprint. When Saturn meets the North Node, it's about every 11 or 12 years. And when Venus and Saturn come around together, which happens annually, but not when there's a retrograde. This is very, very rare. So the retrogradation has had Venus and Saturn connecting with each other for quite some time. So really what we're looking at here is long-term goals in relationship, long-term goals in finance, long-term goals in trying to find harmony, beauty, and all of the things that Venus represents. So all of this also is still in a sextile to Uranus in Taurus, and Venus, of course, rules Taurus. Venus is in strong dignity in Pisces, and when she rules that Uranus, she's now moving forward in strong dignity, and whatever was feeling unsteady or a bit unpredictable or just itchy, need for change that was itchy for the last 2 or 3 or maybe even more weeks, that has also got a quality of, I know what I want now and I'm ready for this change. I'm ready to do the thing. And this is going to take us forward into July when Uranus moves into Gemini. And by that point, also, Jupiter will be in very strong dignity. Currently, Jupiter is ruling Pisces, where all of these planets are. If we come back again to now, we still have the ruler of Jupiter in Pisces, Mercury, with the North Node. And so there's a strong tie-in here from Gemini, which is all about communication. Is your choice coming from proper communication? Have you understood all of the elements of the things that you need to know about? Is it coming from a place of creativity and friendliness and engagement in a way that is looking for solutions or looking for something quite creative, which is also Jupiter and Gemini, understanding the details. And there's a nice mutual generosity there between Mercury at the end of Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini as well, because they rule each other's signs. So Mercury is part of that bigger story with the North Node. And then just a couple of days later, after all of this is all just in 1 week, we have Mercury meeting up with Neptune as well. So this can come from a place of deep creativity. It's not the first time Mercury has met Neptune. This is now the third time. So this is not new energy, but it's Mercury that now is much clearer, has gone through a number of different stages of introspection and reflection and rewriting and revision and so on. This is one of the reasons, for example, that I decided I had to rewrite my book based on non-cooperation with the people who owned the copyright to the translation that I just spent 2 years doing. And so basically here, now the solution is clear. Now the creativity comes, and we want to use that insight, use that creativity, along with the inspiration for this new thing that's coming along that is feeding back into the Venus and Saturn sextile. We need to take action on these things. It's not going to happen for us. This is a very important part of this dynamic. We need to take action, and we take action as the week moves on with better integrity, or at least more clarity by the end of this week. So when Mars moves into Leo. But that Neptune Mercury can be a little tricky. It can confuse things again, especially so close to the North Node. And I want to just keep that little message that I've been feeding in the last year or more, that you want to be careful of what you believe, who you believe, how you believe it. Is that wishful thinking? Are you hearing something and not actually doing your own investigation or research, or are you just taking everything at face value? This would be a very, let's say, unhealthy way of using the Mercury in Aries, taking things at face value, jumping in and assuming a lot of information with Neptune potentially confusing the situation or distorting or misleading, and deliberately or otherwise. And so that has to be still taken into consideration. And for that, it's actually quite good that we have the Venus-Saturn, because Venus and Saturn, it requires some effort to get where we want to go with that. It's long-term, stable, but we get there because we're making the effort. And that again can imply that there's something we might need to slow down in terms of what we desire, what we prefer, what we hope to see, and what we hope to create, or what we hope to earn, what relationships we hope to establish. So there's a lot still that is not very clear, and this is going to be a very big part of 2025. There's always going to be this kind of pushing and pulling towards the future, back into the past, back into things we thought we understood, and then we realize it's all gone, it's all changed. So just go with what you know and leave the rest. Don't get distracted. Don't take a lot of your time to try and figure out what's going on out in the world, because none of it is really stable, for sure, and none of it is indeed what it appears to be. If you are interested in all of those things, go and listen to people you don't normally listen to, and get your news from diverse sources, including diverse national sources and diverse political opinions, so that you're not getting one vision. Because this notion that you can be in a bubble, and especially with all of this energy around the North Node, there can be this confusion. Rahu is also like confusion. And that can cause a lot of confusion and disruption, because there's a desire for things to appear or be one way, and we're missing all the red flags. So Mars is trying to help us with the red flags, but we may not be paying attention. So nonetheless, this is a great time to move forward. I'm not going to lie. This is a changing energy now by the end of this week. So let's say by the first quarter moon, which will be, let's say, Sunday the 20th, Monday the 20th, no, it'll be Sunday the 20th or Monday the 21st overnight. That's the first quarter moon. And by that stage, when the moon is in Capricorn, hang on, let's move it forward so you can see that. When the moon is in Capricorn now, or let's say Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, it will be Sunday morning for people in North and South America, and it will be in the evening for people in Asia, so in Asia or Australasia. So this is the dynamic of the week between the full moon and that first quarter moon, and it's a good time to initiate something. It's a good time to see what has already been under wraps and under discussion, what you became aware of at the full moon, and now start to plan to take action, or actually take action. You can wait if you want until the 27th, when there is in fact a new moon in Taurus, and I'll come back with a new video on that. It's a fixed new moon with a very strong, dignified Venus, and that can be a great thing to plan to actually start something around. I like to say when you actually start something, you've done the planning, and then you wait until the moon itself is visible in the sky. So in a new moon, there's a null moon phase. We don't see it as the dark moon phase. So when you start to see the sliver of the moon, that's when you can, say, launch the website or do the thing. But this week and the week leading up to that new moon, so basically in this waning phase of the moon, this is where you want to get things really, really clear. So you start to be able to use this energy of the changing Mars, by the way, that is coming back to establish something that we already knew from November. If you go back to the 4th of November, this same Mars was crossing over from Cancer into Leo, and it took until the 6th of December for Mars to make 6 degrees of Leo, to get into the 6th degree of Leo. So we've already been here. If you can go back into the beginning of November and try and see what was important for you then you'll have a clearer understanding of what this might mean the second time around. Mars is in a slightly different shape this time, however, because it's trining as soon as it moves into let's go back again 2 days. So on the 18th, when it moves into Leo, it's trining Mercury and trining trining Neptune And that it was not doing in the beginning of November. So here we've got something really significant. If Mars trining Neptune can be like doing something with a higher purpose, like using your spiritual understanding to take action, doing something with a sense that this is the right thing for me in my lifetime or in this moment of my life. And especially with Mercury there, having gone back and forth over the Aries point all this time, 3 times now, that signifies this new thing that you're ready to do. And now with Mars triggering that as a trine favorably, giving, let's say, juice to that energy, while it's at the same time squaring the sun, creating a certain dynamism and a realization, I need to do this thing. I have to adjust my attitude, my behavior, my desires according to everything I've just understood. This is the thing that now you can take forward. If we keep going forward, we start to get into territory that becomes a little bit less comfortable, but it doesn't mean it's not productive. It can be on an individual level incredibly productive. When we have the opposition from Mars to Pluto, which will happen on the 26th of April. So all those days leading up from the 22nd, 23rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, there's a buildup of a T-square as Mars and the Sun are squaring each other, and then the opposition to Pluto causes a T-square. So there's a lot of energy for change and something new to come in. Now, this is a lot easier to handle on an individual level than on a collective level. So at the same time, we have now the second exact conjunction with Venus and Saturn, which we had, by the way, from the 4th till the 6th of April. It's basically been in a conjunction within a degree or a degree and a half all through April. But now there's the exact conjunction at the same time that we have this opposition from Mars to Pluto, and we're continuing with the T-square. So all of this is dynamic. It's about finding this new way forward, finding confidence, finding what I would call your interior or inner strength and your sense of power that is about absorbing your power or understanding your power rather than trying to project power or get into power struggles. Now, again, as I say, it's on a collective level or globally, this is not going to be an easy energy because that's rarely this kind of energy is rarely used in a way that is for everyone's higher good. And so there can be a lot of ego around this time as well. That's something to know. It's a fixed T-square, which is not easy. And there's a lot of fire around this time. There's an increasing amount of fire as we go from April into May. But that is part of the dynamic of our time. Fire can be very inspiring. It can be very innovative and very inceptive. So something new and dynamic can be happening. And when that is used for the higher purposes, the greater good, it's all really, really helpful. You want that constructive, dynamic, and inspired energy of fire. So this is the couple of weeks ahead. I'm most especially focusing on this moment and going forward in the next week so that you can really see. This is kind of, like I said earlier, where the rubber meets the road. You really want to get clear. What do I want out of my life? What do I want to achieve? Why am I doing what I do? What is it that I value most, and how do I value myself? And what is not worth my time? Who is not worth my time? What am I chasing? Like one of the reasons I don't monetize my channel is because when you do that, you get into this cycle of chasing money or chasing the views. And when you're free of that, you're not running after those things. And that's not to suggest that nobody should monetize their channel. It's a different source of income. It's not the way I want to do things. But when you're running after things, running after clicks, likes, views, the money that comes from the eyeballs on your channel, you start creating things in the context of astrology, for example, that become less and less valuable. They're more and more sort of clutching at straws just to keep yourself at the forefront. So every little tiny dynamic of a lunation, for example, is dissected through 5 videos. And so then you end up with a situation where you're no longer doing the thing that is real for you. You're doing something that you think is necessary to keep yourself going or relevant in the YouTube realm. And I'm just using that as an example. You want to take that into your own life and find, where am I running after something? And then have I evaluated whether that's the right thing for me to run after? Or should I even be running? Should I just be walking? Should I just be where I am and allow the thing to come to me? That's also entirely possible. So just to say, this is the moment. So it's about relationship, it's about money, it's about your values and how all of that establishes within relationship and within the dynamic of money and possessions and all that stuff. By the way, with Venus and Saturn, one of the great ways of using this energy is to simplify life. Venus Saturn is it's about finding what's essential in terms of one's relationship, or what keeps us together over many, many years, what brings us together after even finding conflicts and then finding ourselves again, and what keeps us together sort of through the thick and thin of the relationship. And in terms of possessions, what is essential? What would I shove into a bag if my house was on fire, for example? And this is the opportunity that we have right now to really deeply reflect on that, because we're taking all of this forward in a very unique way now, going forward. So, right, this is the point at which I start to ramble. So then it's usually the time to switch over to the switch over to the all signs. I'm just going to move things around here so that we get Aries on the ascendant, and we're going to look then, I'm going to push it actually days forward. So we're going to get Mars in the mix here, as Mars is getting into, we want Mars into Leo. Then we're going to put Aries on the ascendant, and we'll talk about all of that. So we're going to look at Venus and Mars today. Right, here we have now, Aries on the ascendant. So this is for the sun, the moon, and the ascendant always, because we're using the ascendant as it would be, creating the chart and the areas of life which affect you in your day-to-day life. When we use the sun and the moon, we use derived charts. And so that means that from the sun, we create a solar chart as if the sun were on the first house. And the sun represents yourself. It's your consciousness. It's not something that is kind of incidental to astrology. It's actually central to astrology. And again, here again, we have this kind of crazy shifting of understanding or values around these very important significators, where suddenly the ascendant means everything now. And I don't know how or why that happened. I don't even know when that happened. I've just noticed that the last few months, or maximum 1 year, suddenly people are discounting things like the sun and the moon. No, that's how you find out who you are in this lifetime. So let's not leave the sun and the moon out of this. So if it's the moon, it's something to do with your mind and your emotional nature, the memory that you hold, and what you might describe as your inner experience of life. It can relate to your home as well. What makes me feel safe and secure? So all of those things are very much a part of who we are. So here again, so Aries, sun, moon, and ascendant sign. This is, of course, very important. These times are very important for Aries. You're very much a prominent player in the course of events in 2025. And we have, in your case, your ruler changing signs, which is always quite significant. So there's a lot of change within Aries, and you've just had your birthday. At this point, you will almost all have had your birthday if you are an Aries sun. And if it's the moon, that doesn't relate to that at all. And if it's the ascendant, not necessarily, unless you have the ascendant and the sun in your first house. So with Mars changing signs, this is really, really important to you, because your ruler is the flavor of your experience of life. So when your ruler moves out into the chart, let's say in a figurative sense, it's like as if you're going out into the chart or into your life. And here we're shifting from the fourth house of your everyday experience of what makes you feel secure, or what grounds you into a feeling of rootedness or connection with family, or connection to your lineage, or your unconscious, or your conscious rather, psychological self. It's more the emotional, it's not the unconscious mind, but it's more the emotional body, or the emotional mind. Things to do with property as well, actual, bricks and mortar, or It can be the notion of land and even homeland, as in where do I come from? So we've had a lot of Mars there in the fourth house. That would be through September, October, and then again from January until this point. So you will have been grappling with all of those questions in a really profound way. And now, as Mars moves into the fifth house, you want to reflect back on early November. From early November, I think it was the 4th of November, Mars moved into your fifth house and stayed there until the 6th of January. It retrograded on the 6th of December and went back from 6 degrees, lots of sixes in there. From 6 degrees, it went back into your fourth house. So we've only actually experienced recently up to the 6th degree into the 7th degree of Leo. And this will be now Mars moving beyond that point by early May. So we're entering into new territory as Mars moves deeper and deeper into Leo, but you've already understood, in a way, the mission. And for you, this has to do with your creative self-expression, the way that you show you in the world. And honestly, if this is not the theme, I need to hang up my credentials, because for Aries, this is all about you. It's all about what you're trying to experience in yourself. How do I show up? How can I be myself? What am I doing here? All of this is a really important dynamic in 2025 for Aries, and as you heard, in late 2024 as well. With Mars going into the fifth house, there's now a need to be seen. I need to be seen and acknowledged. I need to be recognized doing what I'm doing. I want to show myself to the world. I want to be there in the world in a way that seems creative, that seems like who I can be, finding myself in the world. And this will be all the more important once Saturn moves into your sign. That's a whole separate video. We'll look at that in the next video that I create for you. But with Mars in the fifth, it's a fantastic opportunity to go deeper into whatever relationship issues may have been resolved or dealt with over the last few months. And especially because you had the lunation, the full moon that was on the 12th of April in Libra, in your house of relationship, there will be something that you've understood fully about the dynamics around relationship and what you need to do about that, and what needs to, or what has changed, or what needs to change. And so Mars now coming through the end of that week, a week later, into your fifth house of love and romance and self-expression and also children. All of those dynamics are going to be more clear for you now. Action becomes clearer for you now. It's very frustrating to have so much energy in Aries and not be able to really go forward with clarity, because Aries just likes to get shit done and to start things in a way that feels confident and bold. And it's not so easy when Mars is in Cancer, because not only is there a certain waffliness of a Mars in Cancer, but there can be a feeling of being bogged down by emotions or bogged down by other people's needs. And that's not a very typically Aries thing, to worry about what other people need. It's more that there's, with Mars in the fourth house of family and home, and maybe even referencing your parents in some way, especially the mother, there may have been something that you had to do for others that prevented you from doing your thing. Now it's all systems go. So you're really moving in that direction. If you're born around this time from mid-April onwards, let's say especially from the 18th of April onwards, this year is going to be on fire for you. It's really going to be a dynamic year, and a really great time to get stuff done in a very new way. So fantastic opportunity here at the end of April. We also have, of course, Venus. That's the other part of this story. Venus rules your house of relationship, and Venus also rules your house of money. And Venus is, oh, by the way, the Mars, I need to finish this up for you, Aries. The other house that Mars rules is not just you, yourself, but it also rules your eighth house of marriage, or what you share with another. It's how you connect intimately with someone. It can be money that you receive from people, either being through clients, for example, or through money that you get through your spouse, or through inheritance, or through, yeah, it can be royalties, or it can be things that come to you, like insurance payouts or tax refund or something. Usually the sixth house is money that you have to sort out, like the difficulties that take away from you, and the 12th house is about loss, and the 8th house is what you receive from others. But there may also be something of a dynamic of tension or difficulty around division of property and division of stuff there, including literally like who does the dishes. So this can also be part of that bigger dynamic. Right, let's move back now to Venus. And Venus has been in your 12th house all of January. Then again, she came back in there in March, and she stays in your 12th house until the 30th of April. So that's where there's a lot of reflection on bed pleasures, which again takes me back to the Mars in the fifth, where it's maybe more like all systems go, where it wasn't so sure before, or maybe there was a little tension and conflict around those things. But this Venus now with Saturn is getting serious about something to do with potentially what you have faith in, what you believe in, what you know is your way forward through a higher value, because we're also looking at the house of self-undoing, where it can be things that you're doing that aren't really constructive, or understanding where people around you are not really constructive, not really working towards your best interest. Venus in the 12th can also represent either friends or family at a distance, or lovers at a distance, because Venus rules your seventh house and your second house of family. Or it can be even clients. Seventh house can also represent clients, people you do business with, including business colleagues or business partners, but especially if you work in the sense of having clients, then that's the Venus representing the seventh house of clients. So that means that the Mars, for example, ruling that eighth house can also have something to do with the money you earn from clients. Maybe this is the time where you realize, I need to change my fees, I need to change my rates, I need to be more strict with clients. That's the Venus-Saturn North Node. I need to, yeah, maybe ask for my payment in advance and not expect payment ex post facto. Something along those lines. So Venus in the 12th can also be about long distance travel. Both the 12th and the 9th are ruled by Jupiter for Aries. And Jupiter is in the third house of travel in general, short distance travel, as well as learning and the things that are practical knowledge, but that might tie in a need to travel, a need to go somewhere with a purpose, and travel for reasons like work or conference, or yeah, travel to learn something, for example, including with Venus in the 12th, going off on retreat. This is a great Venus-Saturn thing to do, go off on a retreat. But Aries, with the Mars in the fifth, I'm not sure you'll be wanting to retreat. I think you've done enough now. With Mars in the fourth house, that was your time to retreat, but now Mars is chomping at the bit to get moving. So Aries from the 18th or even the 16th, I think it is, you've got Mercury in your first house as well. So there's a lot of things that are turning in you that are ready now to go forward. Mercury, of course, having retrograded in your first house. When was that? It retrograded, it came into your first house in March, and it retrograded on the 15th of March, just a day after our eclipse. So here what we're looking at is, again, the Mercury coming back forward through your sign to finish up that whole retrograde cycle, which is the bigger story that has been going on basically since March. It's so complicated what's going on astrologically, because all these things tie into each other. So let's just kind of globally say that you're clear now. You're understanding the things that you've learned. And if you're not, it's because you haven't really sat down consciously to think about it. So do that this week. From the time you hear this video until the new moon that's coming in Taurus, sit down with a pen and paper and try and figure out what you're still not clear on, and be really clear. Be very stoic, be very categorical about things, because you're preparing a bigger cycle for your sign, Aries, because Saturn will be moving into your sign as of the 25th of May. So what we're talking about here is the adjustment within the context of you now receiving Saturn. because your life is going to change. You're going to really have to step up in terms of taking responsibility for yourself and how things are shaping up. So this is the preparatory phase, but you can still really jump in and start taking action now with all of the inner planets direct. And especially once Mars gets a little bit of dignity moving into Leo, where it's finding more integrity. And in your best case scenario, Aries, you're all about integrity as well. All right, I think we said enough for Aries, and I think we'll keep moving on, and we'll see about the Saturn story in the next video. Right, so here we have Taurus, of course, ruled by Venus, which is now direct. So your ruler moving direct is extremely important, and because it's like your little icon. So this is for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. And read the description below to understand how that might apply, and or listen to the very beginning of Aries to understand how all of that applies to all signs. And here with Venus now direct, there's an opportunity to have a sense of yourself in a way that feels more confident and more forward moving. She is in your house of the future, in your house of your vision for overall, like what life is bringing you and where you want to go in life. And she's with Saturn. So something here is, it feels lasting. You've contemplated this enough. You've reflected on this enough. Venus has met Saturn now 3 times. So it's not new. You've been reflecting on these things for quite some time. Venus is exalted in Pisces, and therefore she's also more helpful to you, not only because she's direct, but because she's in her sign of exaltation. It's a sextile to you, to your sign. So lots of things now moving forward in a way that you can feel like, okay, I understand now where I need to go with all of this. The Venus with Saturn is giving yourself some clarity, perhaps also around friendships. The 11th house is friends or acquaintances or the people that you do stuff with through a shared purpose or meaning, like a political group or a religious group or creative group. This is also the 11th house of the audience and how people look at you or what you do to reach out to a crowd. And that can include online, or it can be a literal audience, meaning you're standing somewhere presenting something, or you're doing something theatrical or whatever. That's the people in your field that you're reaching out to. And that can also bring more favor from them when Venus is in good dignity and direct. And the fact that she's with Saturn shouldn't bother you, because Venus with Saturn can bring really good results. It's serious, long-lasting commitment, something new, perhaps something very, very dynamic and even unexpected. With the North Node there may be something about gains, income that you're earning in a way that you thought you never could possibly earn. Jupiter is ruling your 11th house from the 2nd house of income. And it's also very supportive in the 2nd house dynamic. It's creating this favorable sense of what's possible for you. Jupiter has already done its retrograde. It finished that retrogradation on the 4th of February. So you already went through the questioning around the income or the maybe family connections, or around how to invest or place your money, or what to do about your possessions and all those kinds of things. But it can also be about, how do I receive support? And here, maybe this is also part of that dynamic where you're now understanding better how to get support for what you want to achieve, or for who you are and what you need to accomplish. So Venus rules your 6th house. Alone, aside from you, in your 1st house of self, Venus rules your 6th house of work. And overcoming obstacles and so on. So here, this is also helpful for that, whatever obstacles might be there. Venus is moving forward in a new direction. That can bring you some benefit. When Venus moves into Aries, which is coming up on the 30th, and again, I'm going to do a separate video for that because it's too many things at once. When Venus moves into Aries, then we'll look at that in a slightly different light. It doesn't mean things are not going to go well. It just means that now there's a new dynamic that's coming through the quality of Venus that goes into Aries again, where she's going to close off that retrograde cycle, where she started her retrograde cycle in Aries in your 12th house. What else have we got? Yes, so lots of new potential for Taurus. And also, Mars has moved out of your third house, where it can be really good in terms of getting stuff done and organizing things and connecting. But Mars in Cancer is not strong. It's helpful in the sense that it's a sextile back to you, so it does support you, but it's actually, it can create some conflicts or difficulties in terms of your aims, because you might find yourself in a tension with the people around you, whether that be your extended family or the people literally in your neighborhood, or you might find your motives or your desires, your initial short-term aims, or the things you really need to accomplish now are having to be compromised for family needs or for emotional reasons or for reasons of a feeling maybe of even lacking the confidence to actually say what you need to say. Um, that is something that would have cleared up now. As we get Mars back in the fourth house, you are more confident, but it's still the same topic, if you like, because Mars in the fourth is also about family, connecting you to family around your home. That could be your physical home, like property and land and the house and home, but also the feeling of home, your emotional nature. There might be something really stirred up here in the 2 months that Mars will be in your fourth house. I forgot to mention that. From mid-April through mid-June, Mars is going to be going through your fourth house. And that is going to be something that you might find requires some activity around the house to resolve an issue at home. It could be about moving. It could be about a feeling of needing to step up or stand up for yourself in terms of what you need to feel secure. You might have to be really working towards that, especially as Mars also rules your 12th house of your unconscious mind and what goes on behind the scenes, what's coming through things that are not entirely clear to you or from a distance, something that's very far away. And Mars, more importantly, rules your house of relationship. So all kinds of partnerships. So what you feel you need or what you need to act upon is going to come from a very deep place for Taurus. This can also be really quite dynamic if you have to move or renovate or do something like that. There can be a lot of work that needs to be done around the home, but ultimately it's going to be for the good. If there is something that is bothering you emotionally, or any kind of agitation and frustration, know that Jupiter will be moving into the third house of communication and connection, both with family as well as with the local space, like neighbors and friends and so on, extended family, siblings. It's going to ease a little bit of that and ease the communication story as well, even before Mars leaves your fourth house. What else have we got here? I think that's it, Taurus. So money seems to be a big thing. Money, earnings, and your value, your sense of self-worth. It's a big story here. Things shifting in a very nice way for you. And I will definitely be back when we talk again about Venus going into Aries by the end of April. And certainly by the end of May, we've got Saturn going into Aries. So that will be an extremely important dynamic as well. So make the most of that, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video. So here we have Jupiter in Gemini. For Gemini, you've got 2 more months basically of Jupiter in Gemini, a little bit less actually, 6 weeks, so maybe 5 or 6 weeks that we've got left for the Gemini rising sun or moon. And this is very interesting because Jupiter rules your 10th house, where Venus has just changed direction. And because Venus has changed direction with Saturn in conjunction, there's something about your career or your role as a parent or your dynamics with your parents or how you're showing up in terms of your long sort of sense of your ambitions or your desire to be noticed or to leave a legacy, to be seen in career, to achieve something in career. All of this is really panning out in a really nice way. You've had Mars in your second house. Perhaps there's been a lot to do with family stuff, money, things that have been a little touchy and a little bit difficult for you. But now Mars is moving into the third, and that puts an enormous amount of dynamism and juice back into your experience. So you've got a really favorable Venus now in the 10th. That can also be, by the way, with reference to issues around your social status, like marital status, that you're clear now about that, or there's a new way forward in terms of the marital status. Venus rules your 5th house of love, as well as children, your creative expression. So Venus is with reference to a career dynamic for you, then this is also extremely helpful too. For example, if you're an artist or if you are working in some dynamic that feels artistic or creative, whether it be music or fine arts and this kind of thing, can be really, really good. Or working with beauty, working with women, working in the Venusian way. Something really, really interesting for Gemini. This is, I think, a very supportive dynamic. And also because now your ruler Mercury is moving into Aries. It was not in great dignity up until the 16th of April. It was in Pisces, and it's not in strong dignity in Pisces, even though it's in your 10th house. So it can be very creative. It can be very unusual in terms of an inventive flair, but it doesn't necessarily bring you the best results. It depends on your natal chart, but this is in a general archetypal sense. So when Mercury moves into your 11th house, now it's starting to behave differently. Now we have a Mars that's ruling that Mercury in a much more confident and self-directed way. And so you'll be able to feel literally find your voice and find your confidence. Be careful with Mars in the 3rd. There can be a certain amount of conflict in discussions with people, or bitchiness is one way of saying that, or a kind of a tension in dynamics around speaking. There can be sarcasm, for example, gossiping, and this is the usual way of seeing the Mars in the 3rd house. So that's not helpful because that can affect you. It'll backlash into your social situation where things are moving in a whole new direction. And especially after Venus moves in there as of the 30th of April, you'll want to expand into that social harmony. So do be careful if there is something that is said in a way that's a little awkward or not constructive. You want to try and find a way to ease that tension if there is any, because we're looking at that Venus with Saturn and North Node that's creating something long-lasting. You're trying to build bridges that are long-lasting, trying to build an income that's long-lasting, trying to establish a sense of social reputation or social status, or the approach to work that is long-lasting. And of course, there's the sextile with Uranus from the 12th house. So there's something that you've been understanding, perhaps through insight, perhaps about what is holding you back, or some of the things that you might do that are not helpful. That is also ruled by Venus. So there may be certain things around your own desire nature or impulsive desires that you're realizing with the Uranus going through your 12th house, where that may have been problematic for you, where, you know, Gemini has that kind of quality of grass is always greener. So there's always this tendency to kind of check things out and not find it easy to stabilize and choose one thing and stick with it. And the Venus Saturn is helpful for that, because this is really where it's like, come on, now you have to choose. Now, you know, even if it's a mutable sign, even if it's Pisces, now you have to choose. This is the option. You know, you deal with the options that you have. That's what you know, and choose based on that. And this can come through an idea that's already there, because we've seen this Uranus last summer. You've already gone through this Uranian degree of Taurus, or the Uranus in that degree of Taurus, and there's something here that is new and inspiring based on what you want to last a long time. So this could be a time, if you're still not clear, to really sit down and go through things step by step and figure out what it is that you want to see going forward, because Uranus is going to go into your 1st house, and you're the one that's changing now. For 7 years-ish, you're going to have Uranus going through your 1st house of self and creating some really dynamic changes that might include literally your appearance and how you engage in relationships of all kinds. So get clear, find as much clarity as you can in this moment. Mars in the 3rd house is also about choice, the courage to use your willpower, the courage to choose. So from the 18th of April till the middle of June, I think it's the 17th of June, you do have this increase of courage, and Mars relates to your future in the 11th house, and it relates to your house of everyday work, or at least the feeling of every day, the quality of the dynamic of your schedule, or the things that you do, or the things that you're obligated to do every day, your responsibilities. So a good time to be really clear about all of those things, because we're talking about how this will shape up as you go forward in time. Resilience might be a word that you should reflect on. Think about the word resilience. How can I build resilience to go in the direction that I want to go in? And that's the sort of theme for you of the Mars in Leo in the third house. All right, so good luck with all of that then, Gemini, and I'll see you in the next video. So Cancer, you heard my sob story about the book and having to now completely rethink the book and redo that. You might have your version of that, whether you're sun, rising, or moon, but especially if your ascendant is in Cancer, because that's quite literal then. The big change and the big shifts that have been happening are in your 9th house and your 10th house. So Venus we have now in direct motion in the 9th house. So what has been brewing basically since January is now much clearer in terms of your sense of what you're here for, what your purpose is, what you really feel fired up about, what do you desire to accomplish or learn or teach. That's a really big part of this current Venus dynamic of the retrogradation cycle. Venus rules your house of gains, your 11th house, also the audience and the way that you reach out into the public in an expanded sense. She rules the people that you connect with in a social way, or people that you relate to in a sort of a networky way, like through professional networks or through a sports group or through political or religious groups, for example. So all of that is coming with the higher sense of purpose. Do I want to do this or do I not want to do this anymore? Venus rules your home as well, and your emotional sense of self and your feeling of security. And so here, what you're bringing forward from the 9th house with Venus now direct, and what has been brewing over these last 3-4 months, is a sense of, now I understand what I want to do, and that knowledge, the knowing of that, makes me feel more secure. It makes me feel more stable. And it might also be that you realize that to do the kind of thing that you want to do, you might need to change your home environment. That might involve an actual move, or it might be that you realize that you just need to establish a better routine that is maybe a better balance between what you need to feel stable and secure and happy, psychologically or emotionally, for example, and how you work out in the world, because that 4th house, 10th house axis where Venus is ruling that 4th house is part of what's involved here. That's also where the full moon was, just before, literally 41 minutes before Venus stationed, and so you might have understood something about that quality of the Libra quality of your chart. So this can be about home, children, family, even your parents, but it's coming with a vision of, what do I believe in? What do I really want out of my life? What do I have faith in? And with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node, you're looking at something that is bringing purpose and meaning in a long-term way. This is not a fleeting kind of movement. It's not just your usual, not your average Venus stationing direct. This is a really unique moment in time. So the more that you're clear why you do what you do, doing something with integrity, also because the Saturn with North Node requires integrity, and especially from the 9th house, you want to find your sense of the, what is my modus operandi? Why do I do what I do? Why do I believe what I believe? How do I put that into what work I do? And that will bring the gains through the 11th house, or bring the people to you through the 11th house, or bring the stability that you want through the family and home. The 9th house also can represent fathers, teachers, counselors, priests, lawyers, all kinds of figures like that. And so there might be something there that consolidates a relationship around those individuals too. And of course, your ruler, the moon, was in the fourth house, just as Venus stabilized and stationed direct. So the moon moves around so quickly. That's one of the reasons why Cancer is known to be moody, because the moon is changing all the time. But this is also a big focus right at the moment that Venus is stationing, and with Saturn and with the North Node, is that the moon is in Venus's sign. And then, of course, Mars, at the just days afterwards, on the 18th of April, Mars moves into your second house, which represents your income. It represents the money and possessions that you have. What you invest in, or how you manage your money, for example, and your resources. Remember that you are a resource as well. So especially because for Cancer, the sun is ruling the second house, that is quite literally like saying, I am my own resource. That's a really important thing to recall. My creativity, my conscious inspiration, etc., that is one of my resources. And for Cancer, there's a requirement of stability in the resource area of life, like the solar fixed Leo kind of dynamic, so Cancer can feel more stable, for example. So this is great now that Mars is moving in there and out of the first house for Cancer. There will be less agitation, less of a feeling of running around like a headless chicken. At least that's my way of feeling it. And also with the Mars in the second, now there's more clarity around income, clarity around spending, clarity around how to manage my money, clarity around my aims and my goals for my money and for my income and for my earnings, etc., where Mars comes into the second. If there's a crisis in the family, or something to do with children, or something to do with your creative expression, that also will call back in the Mars in the second, which is about your values as well. What do I value? How do I take action based on my values? What is my value is another way of saying that. Mars in the second, ruling the fifth, is my creative self-expression, again, is part of my value. There's another way of looking at that. Or my children is part of my value, what I value. What else have we got here? We've got, of course, how could I forget? So Mars, of course, rules your 10th house. That's where an awful lot of action is going on as well. And at the time that Mars finally moves into your second house, also the sun is still in your 10th house in an exalted position. It's a square to Mars that is a challenge, but that's what Mars is all about. It's up for challenges, but they're in a mutual reception. So that dynamic between the Mars and the sun. So Mars at the beginning of Leo, the sun at the end of Aries. It's cooperation in the change, in the transformation, in the way that things need to be redone around the money and the career, or around the money and the status, or around the money and the ambition and the drive and the goal. So all in all, a big improvement for Cancer overall. An improved situation for Cancer that will bring about a better feeling of reliability and stability, which has certainly not been the case lately, and Cancer does not like unreliability. I'll just say it. I just said it. As the spokesman for Cancer, I have the sun and the moon and my ascendant there. What else have we got for Cancer? Yeah, and so of course we've got Uranus in the 11th, and that has been a source of instability. Speaking of instability, for 7 years, instability around gains, around friendships, around future goals and motives, and how you connect with people in general in your life. And with Venus stabilizing, with Venus looking for the long term, looking for the optimal result, we're looking at something that is inspired. It's also something that was reflected upon already last summer, summer of 2024. So this is not new. It's just now that spark of innovation, that spark of motivation is also there. And that's, again, a very favorable energy, because that's in a sextile to Cancer. And Venus herself is trining Cancer from a place of really strong dignity. It's her exaltation sign. All of this is preparing you for Jupiter to enter your sign on the 9th of June. So we're looking at just weeks away. What does that make it? Like 6 weeks away, Jupiter moves into your first house. And this is Jupiter ruling your ninth house of so your higher vision, your higher values, your sense of why the hell am I here? Why is life the way it is? Or what does it mean to me? Or what is life anyway? How do I deal with this? How do I learn about this? How do I teach this? How do I counsel this? How do I express all of this? This is all being fed in to the Jupiter transit that comes through in June, from the 9th of June into your first house. So think big, think to your highest level of understanding of yourself, your purpose, and what life brings to you. No doubt I've missed something here, but we're coming back with more videos, so I'll catch up on what I forget here, but make the most of all of this, Cancer. It's really quite favorable for you as well. So Leo, this is really lovely because now you've got Mars coming through your first house. So there may have been some frustration with Mars in Cancer over all of these months of since the beginning of, well, the 6th of January of 2025, so this year, as well as from November, December, pardon me, sorry, September, October of 2024. So Mars was in your 12th, September, October 2024, as well as from January of 2025. You're now back in the territory where Mars was, where it was from the 4th of November, where it moved very, very slowly from the 4th of November right through to the 6th of January, through the first 6 degrees of your first house, your house of self. And if that's your sun or moon, then that's, if you've got a sun or moon at those degrees, you will have already felt that really strongly. But nonetheless, it gives you a real boost of energy, gives you confidence. It gives you something to work with, because what was happening with Mars in your 12th feels like instability. It's the mind or the emotions that were churning, that felt unstable, that felt like there may have been conflict with reference to home, the people that you connect with through home, or what feels like family. And certainly your emotional nature would have felt quite disturbed. You may have found yourself feeling frustrated around certain emotional patterns or behavior that comes through either your doing or other people's doing. But on the other hand, if there has been something of a need to overcome addiction, for example, with Mars in the 12th, that can give you really good results if that's been the case for you. Now, with Mars in the first, you know you're switched on and you know exactly where you want to go with this. Venus has changed direction. She is now stationing direct. She's going to be at this connection with Saturn through the rest of April. And she is in the house of your intimacy, what you share with others psychologically and even sexually, emotionally, even inheritance, money that you get from clients, for example, all of these different dynamics. So there may have been something that has been very personal to you, very emotional to you, maybe also psychological in a way that has felt perhaps uncomfortable. Mars rules your ninth house of your vision for yourself, why you're here, what my life is about, what do I believe, what's my ideological take on life, or my religious or spiritual one. What underpins what I do in my life? How do I get along with figures of importance like teachers, fathers, father-type figures, counselors, guides, mentors? And also the vision that I have for learning something. Do I want to learn more, etc.? This is all part of the dynamic that you've been perhaps challenged by. You might need to have needed to reconstruct a vision for your life or a sense of your own purpose, with Mars going through the 12th, trying to figure out that sense of self from the back end. And now that Mars is in the first house, you're taking action on that, and especially as Venus is now stationing direct, and with Saturn, something long-lasting is coming from what knowledge you're gleaning from your what otherwise feels like things you don't usually want to look at, and that can be around intimacy or around money that you share with other people, or even around family difficulties, family trauma, family issues, which may have contributed to any kind of instability you may have felt lately. Venus rules your 10th house of career. And she also rules your third house of your everyday life and sibling relationships and the dynamics that you have with people in your local space or your friends and so on. So while she's now moving direct, you're going to have a lot more success and a feeling of moving into something new, moving forward into something in all of those domains. Uranus is also in a sextile from your house of career back to Venus and has been for quite some time, all through April. Will continue to be for another week or so towards the end of the month. And it's sextiling Saturn, of course, too, as well as the North Node. So something in your career is affected by this that can be very positive for you, that can show some real gains. Saturn rules your house of relationship as well. So there may be something that you're gaining through your marital partner or business partner that is also contributing to your finances or to your well-being or to the quality of your relationship, stabilizing your relationship. I think this is quite favorable. The Sun, your ruler, is in its exaltation place. This comes around every April. So from the 21st of March till the third week of April, the Sun is in your ninth house where it is in its joy and it's exalted in Aries, especially for Aries rising, or it's the ninth solar house from the Sun or lunar house from the Moon. And so it's anyway beneficial for you, Leo. And again, that can give you more clarity around your sense of purpose, clarity around your sense of your vision and why you do what you do. So that's about the integrity as well that underpins all of this. We're going to, for the moment, leave aside the Mars opposing Pluto. That has to be dealt with on its own because there's too many other things going on here. I'm sure I'm missing some things here, but let me just check if all the dates and things that I've written down here. I think I've covered it all. Mars rules also your fourth house of home. That's what I missed. So Mars rules home, family, your lineage, your family of origin, where do I live, property, purchasing property, or managing property. So there might be something here also with reference to your family, your roots, and that can be maybe the contrast between what I need to do, like with Mars in the first house, the action I need to take based on what's coming from this need for me to feel grounded and connected and stable and secure, and how that might reference what I need to do to grow my career, to expand into my career, to modify what needs to change out there. And if it's not about career, it can be with reference to parents or with, responsibilities around parents, for example, or your parental responsibilities, or it could be something to do with the dynamic of your social reputation in terms of social status. Am I married, not married, etc. So the action that you're taking is based on all of that. And the eighth house also represents marriage in general. So for good or bad, whether it's divorce or marriage, there's something lasting that you're creating and you're deciding this is you taking action on this in your own interest. All right, Leo, good luck with all of that. I'll see you in the next video. And Virgo, so lots and lots of development in your sector of relationship and your sector of career and your sector of money that you earn from other people, and in the unconscious realms for you, so things that come from behind the scenes. So here we'll start with Venus, that is now direct. Your ruler, by the way, Mercury, is direct, and since the 16th of April, moved into your eighth house. So Mercury has been in your seventh. It's stationed direct on the 7th of April in Pisces in your seventh house. So since that time, you might have been more confident or more sure of something going on in a relationship, and that includes maybe a business dynamic as well as a intimate type of relationship. But it does reflect your reputation because Jupiter rules that seventh house and is, by the way, ruled by Mercury, your ruler, from your 10th house of your career. So that's a really big, important expansion of your sense of yourself and how you reach out into your vision for your ambition, what you want to accomplish, what you want to be seen to be doing as well. Very favorable because you're establishing long-term bonds Again, this can be social bonds in terms of business contracts and businesses in general, establishing a business, for example, around this time, or establishing a partnership of going from like a girlfriend slash boyfriend to spouse, or going from a cohabitation to a contracted marital arrangement, for example, something that becomes more long-lasting and serious in the eyes of society. It's not that the relationship wasn't valid before, but it's in the eyes of sort of formalizing something in society. And that can be a promotion at work as well. You're changing your sense of yourself because that South Node is in your first house. You're changing your sense of yourself and including things that have been an obstacle to you feeling happy or feeling well, and you're moving more of your attention onto the quality of relationships that you have. And this is for a year and a half. But right now, in this moment, with Saturn and Venus on the North Node, your ruler, by the way, was just on the North Node on the full moon weekend, where the Libra full moon was happening just before Venus station direct from your house of the income, your property, or your, let's say, the stuff that you own, the movable property, your possessions, your values, and so on. So this dynamic right now is very difficult to overstate. This is a time where so much of your life is changing. This can be something to do with realizing what you need from family, or what you want to establish in terms of a family, or what you need in terms of money and how that might need to pan out for you, or how you want to expand that income, or how money is shared in a dynamic, in the relationship dynamic. Of course, it was the sun with Chiron in opposition to the moon from your 8th to the second house. Again, about marriage, about intimacy, about shared resources of all kinds. That can also include things like earnings from royalties or money that you get from, let's say, dividends and passive income that comes from other sources, and including money that can come through you, through an inheritance, for example, or some other payout. So a lot of change that is long lasting, but I think actually quite favorable overall for Virgos. And now the Mars comes into your 12th from the 11th, where there may have been some instability. That's about your future, your sense of how you contribute or reach out into society in general, the people who are your, let's say, your audience of some kind, if you're working in that way. Mars rules your 3rd house of siblings and expression, cousins, extended family in general, and it rules your 8th house of income, and like income from a partnership or income from clients, or the money that you get from other people, as well as intimacy and all these other things. And now Mars has moved from that 11th house, which is more exposed, more public, more future focused, into the 12th house, which is more intimate, which is more about kind of digging into your unconscious motivations, or how you might need to organize things at the back end, or how you might need to put in more effort in something that people may not see, like, for example, writing a book, or doing research, or studying for an exam or something, but it's coming with a sense of, this is going to bring me some benefit, it's going to contribute to benefit. Now, when Mars goes into the 12th, it can also show you where either you are not working towards your own best interests, which, by the way, I think Chiron on the sun in your 8th would have also shown you at the time of the full moon in Libra, 12th, 13th of April. But also it can show you now where you're realizing that there's something here that you've been doing, or that you need to change, or that you have to find the courage to get over, or that you recognize there's an individual in your experience that's not working to support you, and now you need to take action on that. And we'll get into more details around that towards the next week, because we've got that Mars in opposition to Pluto once again. You had this at the first week of January. We're getting it again. Oy, 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 so many things to say. I don't even know what I covered and what I didn't, so I think I'll leave it there, Virgo. I think I've covered all the essence of what you need to understand. Remember that Jupiter will move out of your 10th house and into your 11th. That's where Jupiter is really happy. That's considered the joy of Jupiter, although Jupiter's happy in lots of different houses. It's very good for you, the 10th as well, but it brings exaltation energy into your 11th house of gains. And that can be based on everything that you deal with here in that Pisces area of your life, which is that whole story of relationship, the whole dynamic of relationship in the extended sense, not just in the like the one individual, but in that whole bigger dynamic, contractually and relationally, etc., and in terms of values. And that will show up once Jupiter moves into your 11th house. You're going to start to reap the benefits of that. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that, and I will see you in the next video. So Libra, you've just had a full moon in your sign. That was on the 12th, and just 41 minutes later, Venus, your ruler, stationed direct. So wow, what a time to be a Libra. Things are progressing really nicely for Libras coming from this point forward. It's because Venus, your ruler, she's conjunct your exaltation ruler in your house of work and what you do every day with the North Node. So there's some opportunity here to get a really strong sense of how you want to live your life in the most essential way, in the most fundamental sense of the term. It could be with reference to the job that you do. Do I like this job? The moon itself being in your first house during the full moon rules your 10th. So something about your career or your marital status or your social status or your reputation in something that is very much on your mind at this point. And here with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node in your 6th house, a lot of your energy is focused on this new thing, and it's going forward in a way that is going to be durable and long-lasting. So really be sure that this is what you want. And Uranus is in your 8th house, also ruled by your ruler Venus, and that's about marriage or about money that you share with others, or about money that comes to you through other people or through other more passive sources of income that you don't need to necessarily struggle with, but it can also be money coming from clients. For example, if you decide, I need to change my fees, I need to be more clear with my clients or strict with the way that they make appointments, for example, cancellation fees and things like that, if that's the case, of how you work, for example, or just who are my clients? Is that working for me? This is part of the dynamic here of the Aries in your house of relationship with a new Mars. Mars has gone back and forth between your 10th and your 11th house since last September. So September, October was in your 10th house, then came back in January. And since January until the 18th of April, Mars was in your 10th. So you were working a lot on what you do with in terms of your career, how that dynamic shapes up in terms of perhaps your parents as well, and who has authority over you, and how you might struggle with authority in some way, shape, or form, depending on your chart. But that can be part of the theme. There can be actually literally issues to be handled or dealt with around family and parents, or how you are as a parent and how that might need to be dealt with. Your career responsibilities, your marital responsibilities, all these kinds of things. So that's done. That won't have been easy for Libra. Now you've got Mars in the 11th, so there's a lot of emphasis on your gains, it's the gains that you earn from the thing that you do, and then it's also how you connect to your future, your vision for the future. So a lot of your ambition right now is looking forward, looking into a new vision for yourself in the future. We'll get to the opposition with Pluto in a separate video. It's too many things to talk about right now. But you also have this dynamic that is going to have you testing your sense of your creative self or your self-expression, and how that might affect how you reach out into society or into your future. And certainly with the Venus-Saturn North Node in your 6th house, that can be really inspired. Can be a really interesting dynamic also for healing, a new vision for yourself in terms of your physical or psychological healing. Venus, Saturn, and the North Node are all sextiling Uranus in the 8th, which will have taken you on quite a ride through your unconscious and through family secrets and stuff that feels awkward to talk about or deal with, and that may have had you grappling with, to a certain extent, some issues that needed to be clarified in the case of Uranus, over the last 7 years. and in the case of Venus, since January. And then that Mars, now the new dynamic is to look at a new vision for your goals, maybe your financial goals, because Mars rules your second house, which represents the money that you have to use, what's available to you, your resources of all kinds, income, as well as what's actually at hand, investments and things. And maybe that Mars is also about that. It's in the house of gains. So maybe you're looking at new ways of working with money. And of course, Mars is ruling your house of relationships, so this will include, who comes with me on this ride, who's with me, and how do I relate to them? And this is also a part of that journey. And then Saturn very soon will be coming into your house of relationship, joining up with Neptune. There's a big thing going on in that seventh house anyway that you've been grappling with for quite some time. It's not new. So we're looking at least a couple of months in terms of the Mercury-Neptune, but since, for, let's say, 7 years with Chiron, so you have been grappling with the whole question, the bigger question of relationships and how you feel, how you show up in all of that. And now with Mars in the 11th, maybe you're feeling more confident about reaching out into new networks of friends or groups, or your ambition and how you want to reach out into life. There's just more vibrancy and confidence there. I do feel, again, that this is actually, on a personal level, extremely favorable. Jupiter in your ninth has been showing you a bigger sense of your purpose, or a sense of how you can bring your vision and your sense of belief and faith in your life and what life is and what your faith is about, how you bring that into your everyday. And that can be through your work, for example, or through your healing, how my faith has helped with my healing, for example. Jupiter rules your third house as well, which is siblings, local space, your neighbors, and so on. And again, all of this is playing into those social dynamics, especially with the Mars, are the people that I relate to, the ones I want to relate to. And that Jupiter is showing you that it needs to be also somehow based in what you feel is why you're here, with a higher sense of purpose. So it's kind of like it's like saying, I'm kind of done wasting time. Now I want to get serious about how I use my precious life, how I use every hour of my precious time. Because that's the challenge for Libra, is to overgive and do so much for others. And that will continue to be something you need to pay attention to as Neptune goes through your seventh, where you may not always, you feel maybe you're still obliged to other people and having to do so much for others, but you've got the stability now of Saturn. And then Saturn will stabilize that Neptune in the first couple of years as well. So quite helpful for you. I think that's it for now. We'll come back and we'll talk about other things in another video, Libra. Thanks. And Scorpio. So where to begin? So your ruler is now in your 10th house. It has been going back and forth between your 9th and 10th house, and especially September, October, and then from January until now, till the 18th of April, your ruler was in your 9th house, but that wasn't necessarily a comfort, because there was probably a lot of feeling of frustration, or trying to find clarity around issues that had to do with family or home or homeland, that may not have been entirely easy for you, because Mars doesn't always bring the best results, although it is trinal to you, and those trinal houses are extremely helpful in terms of finding your purpose. So maybe you've recognized where your purpose has been around family, or around what needs to be established in the context of more family type relationships, or working from a place of what nurtures me. And then Mars, your ruler, is going now into the 10th house, which is one of the angular houses, squaring to you. So it's going to bring a lot of dynamism around work, around responsibility, ambition. You're going to find yourself full of ambition, full of ideas, a new sense of aims that you could look back into November, starting from the 4th of November and right through till the 6th of January, where that was already true for you. Except that all through December and into January, Mars was retrograde, which may have had you feel sluggish. Mars was retrograde right up until the 24th of February, so you may not have been feeling that dynamism. And especially as Mars also rules your house of work, your everyday house of work, there in the 6th, which is also a big part of this ongoing saga of the retrogrades, where Venus and Mercury and then the nodal transition, and then Neptune, and then eventually Saturn are all going to be moving through. So this thing about Mars right now will bring at least a couple of months of clarity and purpose in terms of your drive moving forward. Mars in the 10th is something to notice depending on the quality of your Mars in your natal chart, because Mars in the 10th can create conflict with superiors or with people who are important in your life, authority figures as well. So make sure that you're pushing just the right amount. You have Venus in the 5th with Saturn and the North Node, so there can be something that feels more stable, more steady in terms of your love life, in terms of your so it could be with reference to your children, for example, or your creative self, your what makes you happy. There can be more of a sense of stability there. That's not this is not like marital quality relationships, but it affects them in the sense of the love capacity for love, where Saturn can sometimes dry that up, but Venus comes along and says, look, we're in this for the long game, and Venus rules your house of relationships. So it's been an unsteady time. The last 7 years have been unsteady for relationship with Uranus rather growing through your 7th house. But now we've got a sextile from Uranus back to Venus and Saturn and the North Node there. So there's something now. It's kind of like you've come to a place where it's like, okay, this is worth it. This is where we want to go. We get it now. We know this is where we want to go with that. That could be part of the drive of that Mars, which is striving towards that social status or towards let's say a marital situation or a job that you've already been building up and working towards, and that's established now. Or you're bringing some aspect of your creative self into your work as well. That can be part of the dynamic of the Venus and Mercury, etc., retrograding between your 6th and 5th. Anyway, generally speaking, when your ruler is in better dignity, you feel a little more confident and stronger, and certainly that's the truth with this Mars. So you may not have felt this level of confidence or ability to go forward in a particular direction since November, minus December when it was all retrograding and things started to go pear-shaped again. So we're really working on the day-to-day. Perhaps that's about health as well. So especially since just before Venus stationed, there was a full moon in your 12th house, and Chiron was with the sun in opposition to that, creating that full moon. So something might be there that is clarifying about health, what's going on with health, how that took shape. And now with Mars going through the 10th, you're feeling more confident about going forward and having more ambitions because you're more clear on that. Or it's about the dynamic of the everyday work, responsibilities, and so on. What obstacles might have been there for you. Things are on track, let's say. Right, and Jupiter rules your 5th house from the 8th house. Jupiter also rules your 2nd house of money. So you will have had a whole bunch of focus since last May on money and other people's resources and how you need to share resources and what is going on in the context of a marriage or in the context of a dynamic of what you get from clients, for example, or home responsibilities around kids, all the usual things. And this Jupiter is the ruler of all of this Venus, Saturn, North Node. And remember, at the time that Venus stationed, Mercury was there as well. So Mercury was in a generosity with Jupiter, which helped them cooperate. So there's something here about just finding more peace and happiness. And this is, I see it as a very constructive time for individuals. It can be a little bit messier on the global scale. All right, Scorpio, make the most of that. And so Sagittarius, where to begin? I'm going to go with the fire sign. So we've got Mars now in your 9th house. And since the 18th of April, Mars is in your 9th house, while Venus is now direct in your 4th house, where she stationed with Saturn and the North Node and brought a certain feeling of stability, ready to work on something, whether it be from home and family or from the place of what makes you feel stable. That is also reinforced by this Mars kind of fire in your belly saying, I understand now why I'm here. I know what I believe in. I have faith in this thing. The other trinal house for you, the fire trinal house, is Aries, which is where so much of this dynamic change has been. Actually, let me back this up a whole day so we can keep, boom, there we go. We're going to keep all of this energy in Aries, which is where it was when Mars moved into your 9th. And so there's a whole story here about kids, about your creative energy. If it's about children that you already have, or is it about children that you'd like to have, or whatever, there's a lot of certainty and purpose and clarity around that, but also around the sense of how you express yourself in this lifetime, how you creatively express yourself. Sorry, we're reaching that point where I'm losing my voice. So that trinal fire is very inspiring. It's very good for you because now you also have an exalted sun in your 5th at the time that Mars is now pulling energy into your 9th house of higher mind, of a broader picture for your life, of a stronger sense of mission and purpose, at the same time that Venus is stabilizing and bringing something positive that creates a foundation for your life. So for Sagittarius, who is ruled by Jupiter in the 4th, now is representing who you want to do that with, how you want to be with that, who in your life, and how in terms of relationships will all of this be supported, because that's about you, it's your ruler, as well as about your foundation in life, your family of origin, the family you create, the house and household and the property, the dynamic around your emotional, psychological stability, which I think, by the way, is going to improve as Jupiter especially moves into your 8th house, which it will do on the 9th of June for a year, more than a year. So your psychological stability can improve enormously with Jupiter going through the 8th. You'll find a sense of positivity, support, a better quality of stability that Jupiter can bring to your general sense of your unconscious or emotional life, psychological, emotional life. Now, that Mars that is bringing you this clarity and sense of higher purpose and higher mission, a sense of vision, a sense of what you really aspire to or what you have faith in, what you want to achieve in terms of the bigger sense of why I'm here. That's also nourishing your 12th house. It rules your 12th, which is your connection to spirit. It rules that 5th house of your creative self-expression as well, but it's the 12th house that is about your spirit, maybe also connecting you to ancestral stuff, which is very strong, especially with Saturn. Saturn that rules the 2nd house of family and the notion of values as well as there with Venus and the North Node. And it rules your 3rd house of extended family. So much going on here, my God. So it's difficult without seeing a natal chart, but here we're just talking in generalities. But this can also connect you to your lineage in that bigger sense of how to connect, through what you are owed. Let's say what you owe your ancestors is one way of saying that, or how you receive and recognize what you have received through ancestors is another way of saying this. And making peace with that, or recognizing what a gift it is, even if it was not easy. That's one way of seeing this. We've got the Venus, Saturn, North Node, all in a sextile to Uranus, which it was, by the way, at the time of the full moon, and that full moon reached into your house of the future. The full moon was happening when Venus stationed direct on the overnight on the 13th of April. That full moon was in your house of the future and your house of gains. And so now you're seeing This is it. This is the thing I want. This is my friends. This is my future. I know who I want to go on this journey with. Um, I am ready to, with wisdom, let go of friends who have not been constructive. And here's another thing, where Mars rules your fifth house of, can also be with reference to self-indulgence, for example, in that 12th house, self-undoing. Now I'm seeing that all of that self-indulgence, self-undoing has brought me to where I am, and this is where I recognize I actually need to make a very important change in my relationship dynamic or the people I spend time with in order to achieve the thing that I want, which is partly about me, how to be more clear in who I am, but also in terms of my reference to my stability and what keeps me feeling grounded and stable. Yeah, very, very interesting times. Also because Chiron was in a conjunction with the sun in opposition to the moon just around that 12th of April, time at the full moon, 12th to the 13th, and ruled by that Mars, which left the 8th house of what was hidden, what was chaotic, what may have brought crises in your life, September, October, and then again from January through the middle of April. Seems like you're ready now. You've gone through the crisis, and now you're ready to see things from a higher perspective that can bring you long-lasting benefits. This is long-lasting stuff that we're dealing with Venus, Saturn, and the North Node. All right, I'm going to leave it there. We could go on for days, but it would be better if I had your chart in front of me. Nonetheless, all the best, Sagittarius, and I'll see you in the next video. Oopsie, we're going day by day. We don't want that. We want to go hour by hour. Boom. There we go. Capricorn, this is all, well, what is it even? So your exaltation ruler is Mars. Maybe I'll start with that. Your exaltation ruler, Mars, was in your house of relationship for a very long time. You no doubt felt that because it would have been causing some aggravation, frustration with the people, either through the people or with the people that you are relating to, especially the closer to home they were, that the more that would have been aggravating. Could have been business partners, but especially if it were a marital partner or a close business associate, for example, there would have been a whole lot of toing and froing that is now moved. It has moved on. That Mars rules your fourth house of home, and so when Mars is not very comfortable, as it wasn't when it was in Cancer, it creates a lot of agitation at home, and that you also want to extend that to your sense of your home in terms of your psychological home and your emotional home, like feeling at ease in your skin, which wouldn't have been easy in the last few months. Now there's a sense that you've weathered the storm and that has shifted. Mars is in a far better place in terms of its capacity to overcome. And Mars is in the house of crisis and having to deal with stuff that might have to do with money that you share with other people, investments or money that comes through other people, through clients, through marital stuff, dealing with issues like inheritance and things like that. And that Mars is part of the dynamic of the fourth house of property and your sense of what grounds you. So it's not necessarily in an easy house, but we do want Mars in the house, like an eighth house type situation, because it's like, I got this. I'm competent to deal with this obstacle or this problem. Or at best case scenario, it's creating a nice, spicy relationship with your spouse in terms of intimacy. Mars works really well for Capricorn in general. Mars also is the ruler of your 11th house of gains and your future and the vision that you have for the future and people that you spend time with. So again, now there's more clarity around that, more dynamism around that. And your ruler, Saturn, is with Venus, who just stationed direct at the full moon that you would have received in your 10th house. So there's something very interesting here in terms of your use of willpower, the way you connect with people, the way you connect with extended family, siblings, neighbors, your use of your skills, your whether it be communication skills, interpersonal skills, or your actual skills like musical skills or mathematical skills or whatever. It's the practical skills that you bring to the table. And your ruler, Saturn, is with the North Node, with Venus, was with Mercury at this time of the full moon. So there's something that you're understanding about your career or your marital status or something connecting you to parents and the things that you might need to take responsibility for in terms of parents and family or your role as a parent, because Venus also rules your fifth house of children. So, so these moments in time, these weeks are just one of the most complex weeks astrologically that I've ever had to interpret. It's really unusual. Anyway, so this dynamic with your ruler, with Venus, that's ruling your career, ruling your children, and of course your Saturn also rules not only your first house of self, but your second house of family and income. There's something very, very exciting happening in terms of your third house of communication or choice point or working your way forward in terms of a skill or a new way of relating even locally that might include, for example, moving, and now you're ready to move after arguing with the spouse for months about should we move or should we not move. Um, in the Mars in the seventh, ruling the fourth. And now you're seeing, okay, yeah, we got this. We now know where we're going to move, or now we need to fix the plumbing. We're going to stay where we are and we're going to fix the plumbing, for example. Yeah, the Chiron with the sun in the fourth house will also have resolved something to do with your own sense of your grounding, your psychological well-being, and what makes you happy and feel secure emotionally as well. And again, now with Mars in stronger dignity, you understood the problem. You're willing to grapple with it. It doesn't churn things up as it would have done, especially in opposition to you from relationships where there may have been an enormous amount of frustration, emotionality, anger, repressed anger. Now you're kind of all systems go, which is where you like to be. Capricorn likes to move along and do stuff and get things moving forward. Jupiter in your sixth house of work will have also brought to you a lot of work as well as a lot of headaches, because Jupiter in the sixth house expands all kinds of the stuff, the things that you have to do. The day-to-day work, maybe issues around health that you needed to tend to, or issues around your day-to-day relationships with colleagues or employees that you had to deal with. And there would have been a lot of that. So you'll be also very relieved that by the time Jupiter moves into your seventh house, so from the 9th of June, Jupiter moves into your seventh house, that will ease this whole story of communication. It will ease your unconscious mind and also maybe things to do with what is your undoing. And because Jupiter will be in much better dignity, it will also be easier to cooperate with people. The people that come to you there will be a flavor of capacity that wasn't there before. Right, and I'll come back and in another video we'll talk about the Mars opposition to Pluto, which will be a dynamic unto itself. What last thing here is the Uranus in a sextile to all of this stuff going on in your third house, this Venus, Saturn, North Node, and then recently Mercury was there too at the time of the full moon. That's creating an inspired new way of communicating or thinking about issues that might have resolved problems in a way that suddenly came together for you, or that will come together for you in the weeks ahead. All good. And then as soon as Jupiter moves into your seventh, one month later, Uranus moves into your sixth and brings you a completely different way of living. So all of this choice point with your ruler with Venus North Node, you want to really be clear that your goals and your sense of what is my aim now? What do I need to know now? What do I need to teach now? How do I need to negotiate all of these different relationships and constituents in my life? That is going to feed into your everyday work very, very soon. All right, we're going to leave it there, Capricorn. I'll see you in the next video. Aquarius, this is happening. Well, what is it? Let's start with I'm going to start with Venus for you. Venus is with your ruler in your second house of money. Saturn rules you, Aquarius, and is with the North Node and Venus. And it was with Mercury at the time of the full moon, which happened in your ninth house of where you realized your purpose or your sense of at least for now, the higher vision that you have for your life and what you want to establish or what you have faith in, for example. The ninth house can represent father figures, or even your father. It can be counselors, teachers, lawyers, especially as it's quite literally Venus ruled Libra for you, and people that you ask advice from, let's say. So all of that would have been on your mind around the time that Venus was stationing with your ruler, Saturn, with the North Node. So you're reestablishing something of your values, how to respond or relate to your values, and how to make value from your values in terms of money, income, managing your resources. Maybe you're getting new resources coming in. And trying to deal with establishing something long term. Now, the second house also represents family. So there may be something that you needed to deal with around family, especially children, because Jupiter is in your fifth house and it rules your second house. So there may have been issues that you needed to contend with or deal with around children on their behalf that might be expenses. For example, you're sending the kids away to school, it's going to cost you money. Or you're investing, let's say, in their future education, or you're having to invest in terms of, something to do with their hobbies and or your hobbies for that matter, the things that you want to do for fun. So it can be money related, or it can be money that is coming into you, and there's a new source of that because Jupiter also rules your 11th house of gains. That the 11th house is also the future. So there's a new way also of seeing yourself in terms of maybe your values and how you are working through, do I have the money to do the thing that I hope to be able to do in 10 years' time, for example? So you're maybe looking into investment or how to grapple with investment or how to change and reestablish a new way of investing, taking risks. What else have we got here? And of course, then Mars, which is the new story or the new old story back from November. Mars is now once again in your your seventh house of your relationships. And Mars also rules your third house of communication, your siblings, your extended family, the connections with people that you have in your local space, friends, casual friends, and so on. So Mars has been in your sixth house of every day, dealing, probably putting out fires, dealing with stuff, dealing with health issues, dealing with work, dealing with obligations. It's up to it, by the way. So Mars in the sixth is really good. It works very well for you because it's confronting things that need to be dealt with, but it's not so easy in Cancer because it can get that the wires can cross either emotionally or there's just not enough energy. The energy fluctuates. It's not available to you. Now the energy is switched on. The challenge is that it's in your house of your opposite, so the person sitting across the table from you. So you'll need that Pluto, establish yourself in your own power so that whatever's coming at you from the other, you're able to withstand and relate to, deal with. Mars rules your 10th house of career. And so there's also something here about ambition in career, or maybe having to navigate some competition around career or around marital status, where you're having to, maybe you're literally having to fight for your marriage, or maybe you're having to deal with something that is like fighting for my job, or I have to negotiate with my boss and I need to enter into a kind of a discussion or a power struggle. Mars ruling the third house of your, again, contractual relationships and how you might navigate all of that stuff. You had the full moon here in your ninth house, so you've got a vision for this, or at least an inkling of your purpose and what's important to you now, and all of the transformation of the last few months has been informing you about your finances and about the aims and choices that you need to make right now. So this can be very beneficial. We'll call it a clearing of the air. Mars in your seventh house will clear the air. You'll be clear who's in, who's out. What am I motivated by? If this is about business, for example, you're clear now. Now you're all systems go. This is the business plan. This is the thing I want to do. I'm moving in this direction. You've got Mercury stationing, or Mercury has gone direct in your third. You had the Sun and Chiron together at the full moon in opposition to the full moon in 23 degrees of your third house. So you're clear around anything that feels like a self-doubt, what was holding you back, or what was, all this time was making you feel self-conscious or insecure. And Mars is like, okay, we're switched on now. We're ready to go. And Venus too. Venus is extremely favorable for you in your house of money with your ruler and the North Node, offering you new opportunities. Venus rules your fourth house also, which represents your home, family, your homestead, homeland, and also your lineage, as well as your deeper inner sense of well-being, what makes you happy, which has been in turmoil for quite some time with Uranus there, not much stability when Uranus goes through the fourth house. So this is in now a sextile. Uranus is sextiling back to that Venus that rules it with Saturn and North Node. So there is something new coming from your sense of either your self-worth or the finances and resources you have now, or the values you're recognizing that you want to stabilize and work through, work from. The higher vision. Venus rules your house of higher mind. And now the inspiration is coming through. And it's like, this is what I need to feel this stability. You're going to get rid of Uranus for a little while it moves into your fifth house of creativity. Much more interesting than having Uranus in the fourth. It's much nicer. So you're definitely going to enjoy the summer where you're going to be more creative and inspired. So right now, get the foundation solid so that you know what it is that makes you happy. You can then express it in time. All right, Uranus, my God, sorry. Aquarius, make the most of this, and I will see you in the next video. Oops, Pisces, we almost missed you. Sorry about that. So Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising. This is a big deal for you because it's all happening in your sign. Your exaltation ruler, Venus, is in your first house with Saturn, with the North Node. And that has been most of April, but it's especially very strong around the time of the full moon, on 12th to the 13th, when she stabilizes in direct motion. And that full moon for Pisces was happening in the eighth house of other people's money, in terms of the house of intimacy, what you share with other people, what you know instinctively, what is there in the ethers that you kind of pick up on unconsciously. It's your psychological nature. It's the connection that you have with the occult or spirit, or the mystery school stuff of life, and maybe you're starting to recognize you want more of that in your life. For example, Saturn rules your 12th house, where you have now Pluto, and Saturn is here with Venus and the North Node. Maybe you're recognizing you really want to develop those techniques, those skills, those ways of connecting. Also, of course, quite literally in terms of relationship, where Venus rules your eighth house of marriage and intimacy. Now you're recognizing, okay, this is where I need to get serious. If I want to have a marital partner, or if I want to be intimate with somebody, I need to behave this way and be stable, stabilize my relational quality, stabilize my desire nature, because Venus is all about desire. So let's say since January, when she first moved into your first house, maybe your desire nature was a little unclear. Maybe you had a lot of desires of the different people that you were focusing on, or different ambitions that you were focusing on, or different ways of expressing the occult, for example, that you were focusing on. And now you're stabilizing. Now it's like, I have to do this. This is the thing. I'm clear now. That clarity can also come through Mars having gone into your sixth house. It was from the 18th of April, moved into your sixth house of everyday work, making you feel like I'm ready to put my nose down and get to work based on this thing that I understood in terms of the second house of values and what I wanted to apply myself to, how I need to make money, how I earn my income. But Mars also rules your ninth house of what is your higher purpose. The motivation for your sixth house is coming from your higher purpose when Mars is there. And so you're working towards this thing really from an inspired place. You've got even Uranus in a sextile back to these conjunctions which is expressing you, referencing you and how you need to take action or want to take action from here on in. And Uranus in the third is very inspired thinking. It's novel, it's different, it's something that is feeding back from communication, a new way of communicating, a new way of expressing. So for example, I have a Pisces stellium, including my sun, so I'm a Pisces sun. This applies sun, moon, and ascendant. And what I was saying with reference to my Cancer rising, where my Pisces stellium is in the 9th house of publishing, here we have the Uranus in the 3rd house of writing, with Venus ruling that from the 1st house of self. And by the way, which is all of that is on my Mars. So this is about me taking action on all these things. And so with Uranus here in the 3rd house, I am now having to change my way of communicating my book. I'm now having to rewrite based on what I've understood is not going to be easy to negotiate. To save time, I move in a different direction. So that's the Uranian inspiration changing based on this whole humming and hawing of the Mercury and Venus retrograde going between the 2nd house and 1st house. You might have your own story with something like that. What do I need to learn? How do I need to deal with something in terms of my choice or my personal aims and goals? How do I want to, let's see what else, earn money? Do I need to change the way I need to earn money? For Pisces, Saturn rules the 11th house of gains, as well as the public, the audience, the casual friends and networks that you work with or that you relate to in some way. The ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, is in the 4th house, so home and family and issues around those things, around what makes me feel stable emotionally, psychologically, materially. That's played a big role in the last year, pretty much. And Jupiter reaching back into the 1st house, ruling that, and also ruling the 10th house of career is where a lot of the let's say action will take place. So part of the dynamic around myself, the money I earn, the way I show up, the way I find stability, the way I take something seriously from this point on is influenced by Jupiter being in the 4th. So that can connect you to what grounds you. It connects you to where you live. It connects you to how you work. Do you work from home? Do you work in a place that requires more a change of some kind? And this will be part of the dynamic with Mars in the 6th house. It's about work based on values, based on the 9th house vision for yourself. Oy, oy, oy. There may be something I've missed out on here, but I think I've said most of it. Definitely listen to the introduction, because that will also be very pertinent to you, Pisces, as you are deeply personally affected by all of this movement of Venus and the conjunction with Saturn in the North Node. Right, I'm going to leave it at that. Take the dog for a walk. Thank you for being here all this time, for those who are still here, or at least the Pisceans among you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take good care.